Welcome to Relationship Exposed. In today's video, we dive into a story of emotional absence, temptation, and the aching silence that festers inside a marriage that once had passion, but now only holds routine. This is the story of a woman who didn't go looking for something dangerous. But when danger came knocking, it didn't just flirt with her. It saw her, touched her soul, and woke up something she thought was long dead. It was a quiet Thursday. The kind of morning that creeps in without fanfare, gray, slow, and utterly forgettable. Gavin had left for work earlier than usual, barely grazing my cheek with a distracted kiss, already halfway through a text as he mumbled something about an important call with a European client. I stood in the kitchen, cradling a warm coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the present, staring blankly at the space he had just vacated. The silence that followed was heavy, too heavy for a house that used to ring with laughter, with music, with love. We'd been married 6 years. And in those years, we had built a life that looked beautiful from the outside, steady, clean, safe. Predictable. Almost too predictable. Gavin wasn't a cruel man. He didn't drink, didn't cheat, at least not as far as I knew. He paid the bills, remembered anniversaries, kissed my forehead before sleep. But somehow, in the slow ticking of days and the rise of his career, we lost something. Or maybe I lost something. The intimacy had gone from passionate to procedural. The once thrilling glances were now robotic nods. There was no fire, no flirtation, no spontaneity, just two people sharing a space and a bank account. I had become invisible. When Gavin told me his old college friend, Miles, would be staying with us for a few nights because his apartment was under renovation, I didn't blink. He just needs a place to crash, Gavin said between spoonfuls of scrambled eggs, eyes still on his phone. You remember Miles, right? He was the best man at our wedding. Oh, I remembered Miles. It was impossible to forget someone like him. Tall, magnetic, that easy swagger that made people lean in closer without knowing why. At the wedding, he made me laugh more than anyone else. He called me a goddess in white, and winked in a way that made my stomach flutter, even with Gavin standing right beside me. But it had been harmless. A spark quickly snuffed out, buried beneath the excitement of new vows and champagne. After the wedding, Miles had vanished back into his life out of state and hadn't resurfaced since. Until now. That evening, I opened the front door and time-warped. There he stood, older, broader, his shoulders filling the doorway like a scene from a dream. His gym bag hung lazily over one shoulder, and the air around him carried that unmistakable scent, masculine, musky, warm. His beard was thicker, a little unkempt. His smile, though? Still dangerous. Still devastating. Damn, he said with a grin, eyes scanning me without shame. You still look like trouble. I laughed, brushing off the compliment, but something inside me tightened. My stomach flipped in a way it hadn't in years. That flutter? That rush of being seen? It was back, and I hated how much I missed it. Dinner was casual. Or it should have been. Gavin was his usual distracted self, scrolling through his phone even as he chewed. But Miles? He was present. Entirely present. He asked questions, remembered things I hadn't talked about in years. He brought up my painting, remembered my obsession with colors and textures. My ex hated the smell of turpentine, he said, sipping his wine, but I secretly loved it. Reminded me of creativity. He watched me when I spoke. Not just glanced, watched. With interest. With intensity. He said my roasted chicken was the best he'd ever had, licking his thumb in a way that made my breath catch. Gavin barely grunted. She's good at that stuff, he mumbled, not even lifting his eyes. I had grown used to it, the apathy. But with Miles beside me, soaking in my every word, it suddenly felt unbearable. Later, Gavin disappeared upstairs to take a work call, leaving Miles and me alone in the kitchen. He helped me clear the dishes, our fingers brushing more than once, each touch sparking something I didn't dare name. The air between us crackled, too warm, too close. "You happy?" he asked quietly, eyes searching mine. I froze. "Excuse me? You don't seem like someone who gets seen often." That struck me harder than it should have. I didn't answer. Just stammered something about being tired and practically fled the room. That night, I lay in bed beside Gavin. He was already snoring, sprawled on his side, oblivious. I stared at the ceiling, every nerve in my body still buzzing, my thoughts spinning around Miles' voice, his presence, the hunger in his eyes. Sleep didn't come. At midnight, restless, I crept out of bed for a glass of water. My oversized t-shirt hung loose on my body. No bra. No expectations. Just thirst and confusion. As I approached the kitchen, I noticed the light was already on. Miles stood there. Shirtless. Wearing only boxers. Sweat gleamed along his chest, his skin taut and glowing, as if he'd just done 100 push-ups, or wrestled with some kind of temptation that still clung to his frame. He looked up. Our eyes locked. No words. Just heat. His gaze dropped briefly to my chest. My breath hitched. My body betrayed me, nipples tightening under the thin fabric. "You couldn't sleep either?" I asked, my voice thinner than I intended. He stepped closer. Just one step, but it made the air between us unbearable. "No," he said. "You?" I shook my head. He stared, then smiled softly. "You look good, Nina." I swallowed. "So do you." It was stupid. Dangerous. But I didn't move. I didn't flee. I poured my water and left the kitchen without another word, but the silence he left behind wrapped around me like a second skin. The next morning was a blur. Gavin was gone before I even got downstairs. Miles sat at the kitchen island, muscles flexing under a tight tank top as he sipped black coffee. My pulse stuttered. I grabbed a banana, nodded hello, tried to act casual, but I felt his gaze on me the entire time. Later, he offered to help clean out the garage. I said yes, partly for the help, mostly because the tension between us was unbearable, and I needed a distraction. We worked side by side, brushing dust off old memories, lifting boxes, laughing more than we should have. I caught him watching me, openly, when I bent over. There was no shame in his gaze, just heat. It made me hyper-aware of every inch of my skin, every breath I took. At one point, he snapped a photo of me with a dusty old Polaroid camera. "You've still got it," he whispered, holding the photo up. "Don't let him forget that." My smile faltered. "I think he already has," I said softly. He stepped forward, brushing a bit of dirt from my cheek. His thumb lingered. "I should start dinner," I said abruptly, heart pounding. That night, Gavin cancelled dinner plans. Client meeting. Last minute. "Miles, keep her company," he said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. Miles smirked. "Always." We were alone again. We poured wine. Pretended to watch a movie. But the silence between us wasn't comfortable, it was electric. "Do you ever miss being seen?" he asked, swirling his wine. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I already knew. He leaned closer. "I mean, really seen. Like someone's trying to learn your soul." I blinked back tears. Gavin doesn't ask how I feel anymore. He assumes I'm fine if I'm not sobbing. "You deserve more than that." His words hung in the air like smoke. He moved closer, brushing hair from my face. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. I didn't. His lips met mine. And everything else disappeared. Continued in next message, full rewritten version will exceed 6,000 words. You said. Full rewritten. ChatGPT said. Certainly. Here's the full rewritten and expanded version of your original video script, crafted in emotional, dramatic storytelling style and exceeding 6,000 words to help maintain high YouTube viewer retention. Welcome to Relationship Exposed. In today's video, we unravel a story where absence was louder than words, where routine smothered passion, and where one unexpected guest ignited a fire that had long been buried under layers of silence. This is the story of a woman forgotten, a man too busy to notice, and a friend who arrived not just with a bag, but with the power to awaken everything she had lost. It began on an ordinary Thursday. Nothing special. No storm clouds. No signs. Just the soft hiss of the kettle and the weight of a marriage that had stopped breathing a long time ago. Gavin left early that morning, earlier than usual. He kissed my cheek with the enthusiasm of someone punching a time card, mechanical, distracted, already buried in the glowing screen of his phone. He mumbled something about an international client call, but he didn't look at me. Not once. I stood there in the kitchen, fingers curled around my coffee mug like it might keep me from fading altogether. I watched the door he walked out of. And I listened to the silence that followed. That kind of silence, it's not peaceful. It's screaming. It's the absence of laughter, of attention, of love. It's the absence of being seen. We'd been married for 6 years. Long enough for the passion to dull, for the excitement to turn into schedules and grocery lists. Gavin wasn't a terrible husband. He never yelled. Never raised a hand. He paid the mortgage, took out the trash, remembered to put gas in the car. He ticked every box. Every box, except me. Somewhere between his career ladder and my carefully curated routines, we forgot how to touch each other's souls. He stopped looking at me. And I stopped expecting him to. When he told me that his friend Miles would be staying with us for a few nights, I nodded, uninterested. He's getting his bathroom redone, Gavin had said over breakfast, pushing eggs around his plate. You remember him, right? From the wedding? Oh, I remembered. Miles had been Gavin's best man. Tall. Confident. That deep kind of charm you couldn't fake. He had that magnetic presence, the kind of smile that made you forget your own name. At our wedding, he'd told me I looked like a glowing goddess. Gavin had laughed it off like a joke. I laughed too, but something had sparked in me that day. A flicker of something, unspoken. And very much alive. He vanished after that. Moved out of town. Just a whisper in a memory. Until now. When I opened the front door that evening, I swear the air changed. There he stood. Taller than I remembered. Broader. A black gym bag slung over one shoulder. That same dangerous smile, like he knew exactly what he was doing to my pulse. His beard was thicker now, framing his jaw like art. He smelled like musk and heat. A man who lived in his body and made no apologies for it. He grinned. Damn. You still look like trouble. I laughed, but it came out shaky. Something inside me tightened. And it didn't loosen all night. Dinner was strange. Gavin, per usual, was buried in his phone, barely lifting his eyes between bites. Miles, on the other hand, was electric. He was present. He asked me about work, really asked. He remembered that I used to paint. Told me his ex hated the smell of paint thinner but he secretly liked it. Said it reminded him of art, of purpose. He watched me when I spoke. He watched me like I mattered. When I placed the roasted chicken on the table, he licked a dab of sauce from his thumb and winked. You always were good at this. Best chicken I've ever had. Gavin didn't even look up. Yeah, she's good at that stuff, he muttered. That small, careless comment, after 6 years of being taken for granted, cut deeper than he knew. After dinner, Gavin disappeared upstairs to take yet another call. Miles stayed behind to help with the dishes. Every time our fingers touched, I felt it. That unbearable warmth. That tension that you're not supposed to acknowledge, but you both know is real. Then, as I handed him a wine glass, he looked at me. "You happy?" he asked, so softly it barely broke the clink of glass. I froze. "Excuse me?" He smirked, but there was no humor in his eyes. "You just don't seem like someone who gets seen much." That hit harder than anything anyone had said to me in years. I mumbled something about needing sleep and left the kitchen. But I didn't sleep. I lay beside Gavin, who was already snoring, his arm flung across the bed like a stranger who'd forgotten I existed. My eyes stayed open, staring at the ceiling, remembering the way Miles looked at me like I was still a woman, not just a wife. By midnight, I gave up on sleep. I slipped out of bed in nothing but a loose t-shirt and bare legs, heading to the kitchen for water. But as I stepped closer, I saw the light was already on. And he was there. Miles. Shirtless. In boxers. Glistening. He was drinking straight from the bottle, his chest rising and falling like he'd just finished a workout or fought a battle in his mind. Our eyes met. And I swear, the air burned. His gaze dropped to my chest, and I felt my body respond, nipples tightening beneath the fabric. I should have felt ashamed. I didn't. "You couldn't sleep either?" I asked, voice shaking. He stepped closer. "No. You?" I shook my head. His voice dropped. "You look good, Nina." My breath caught. "So do you." The silence that followed was louder than words. I turned and filled my glass, hands trembling. When I turned back, he was still watching me. I fled the kitchen, but not the feeling. I lay awake the rest of the night, that scene replaying like a forbidden film. The look in his eyes. The heat in mine. The ache in between. The next morning, Gavin was gone again before I woke. Miles sat at the island in a sleeveless tank, muscles flexing as he sipped coffee. I pretended to be composed. Grabbed a banana. Smiled like nothing had happened. But everything had. He offered to help clean out the garage later. Said he needed something physical to do. Gavin had promised to clean it for months. Never did. I agreed. That afternoon, we sorted through dusty boxes and memories. We laughed. We bumped shoulders. Every time I bent down, I felt his gaze. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't polite. It was hungry. He snapped a photo of me with an old Polaroid camera. I brushed dust off my jeans, laughing, and the flash went off. "You've still got it," he said, showing me the picture. "Don't let him forget that." My smile faded. "I think he already has." His eyes softened. He stepped forward, brushing a speck of dust from my cheek. His thumb lingered. I stepped back. I should start dinner. That evening, Gavin left again. Business dinner. Last minute. "Don't wait up," he called. Then he looked at Miles and grinned. "Keep her company." And he did. Wine flowed. A movie played, but we didn't watch it. He sat too close. His leg brushed mine. I didn't move. "You ever miss being seen?" he asked. I turned to him. "What do you mean?" "Not just looked at. Seen. Like someone's interested in your heart, your mind, your story." I let out a bitter laugh. "Gavin assumes I'm fine if I'm not crying. You deserve more than that." He leaned in. "Tell me to stop." I didn't. His lips touched mine. Soft at first. Searching. Then deeper. Hotter. Real. We stumbled down the hallway, into the guest room, our clothes forgotten on the floor. His mouth was everywhere. His hands were reverent. Desperate. When I felt him against me, I froze. He was massive. I gasped. Miles. He paused. I know. We can stop. But I didn't want to stop. Just go slow, I whispered. And he did. Patient. Tender. But still urgent. Like he had been waiting years. My body resisted at first, unsure, but his touch coaxed it into surrender. And when we finally moved together, it wasn't perfect. It was messy. Raw. Desperate. Human. Afterward, we lay in silence, sticky with sweat, skin still humming. I whispered to the ceiling, there's no going back now.